Hello, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Joel Fritzma here, alongside Drew Brummel. Say hi, Drew.
Hello.
Happy Friday, everyone. We made it to the end of the week. It is June 20th, 2025. And it is a nice one out there today. A little bit of rain moving through. But we are going to be talking about some severe weather chances overnight tonight into tomorrow. While we get set up here, let me know if you guys can hear us. And we'll get started. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We have Julian here, first comment. CA, Andy, Megan. We got Bag, General, and Stan and Sta Lee. So welcome in, everyone. Again, feel free to hit that like button as we get started here. Real quick, there is a special weather statement out there right now in portions of northeast lower Michigan. We're keeping an eye on it. It has exhibited some very, very weak and broad rotation over the last 30 minutes to 60 minutes. Primarily when it was in Montmorency County, it is now into northern Alcona County. That is going to be continuing to track off to the east-southeast towards Harrisville and Mikado in the coming hour. So other than that, there's also some rain showers going on downstate, a couple thunderstorms as well. Not expected to be severe at the current time, but we are watching them throughout this evening. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to the briefing side of things now. The reason why we are here is for a very busy screen, as you can see here. These are the next 3 days worth of severe weather risks in Michigan. Up there in the top is your today risk, tomorrow risk in the middle row, and then the bottom row there is going to be Sunday. So as you can see here, there is a marginal risk and a slight risk in Michigan issued by the Storm Prediction Center through the rest of today. Again, these forecasts go through 8 a.m. each day. And so what's going on here is this is actually it's a prediction from the SPC that shows that severe is probably going to be happening all the way up until 8 a.m. tomorrow. And we'll show that here on our model runs here in just a second. But again, this is through 8 a.m. Also marginal risk in effect downstate here for potential for a couple brief severe storms, kind of like what we saw last night in Metro Detroit region. We had that one storm produce 1-inch hail. It's most likely that it's going to be for the storms that are moving through overnight, though. So keep that in mind. It's kind of a double whammy of sort of marginal risk for the lower peninsula. In the UP, it's more for that squall line it's expected to come through. And again, we'll go over that here in just a second. As it moves past 8 a.m. on Saturday, this risk does shift off into primarily northern and central Michigan, as well as the UP. Marginal risk all the way down through the 96 corridor there from Grand Rapids down to Ann Arbor and into Detroit. Again, that is going to be primarily for damaging wind risk as well as perhaps large hail risk. And we cannot rule out a couple, maybe a tornado or two if the environment allows. And we'll go over that exactly here in just a second as well. And then on Sunday, this is also just upgraded, Drew, in the latest midday update. A slight risk now in effect for extreme western UP and a marginal risk for the rest of the UP as well as northern Michigan north of really M72 up there from Traverse City over to Alpena. So kind of 3 straight days. This will probably be a late evening threat on Sunday as well. And again, we'll go over that probably tomorrow. We'll look at Sunday more tomorrow after we get through tonight's stuff. So as well as the SPC outlook, we have our outlook. Kind of mimics the SPC a little bit. Again, this is through tonight into tomorrow. So this is showing you level 3 risk for all of the UP. Again, it's on a scale of 6 here from us here at MSC. Timing there, peak weather timing is 1 a.m. to 9 p.m. So pretty much all day Saturday, potentially. Level 2, level 1 down there in portions of central Michigan. And then the thunderstorm risk for southern Michigan. Good news for those who are living in southern Michigan. Again, you guys have been busy this year, but it looks like for this event, you're going to be pretty sound free, I guess you could say, in terms of thunderstorms. Could still see a couple that would be non-severe, but the general consensus is non-severe is the main mode here for places Grand Rapids, Lansing, and south. Individual hazard wise, if you flip over to just damaging wind risk, you'll see up there on the top of your screen that is a 3H or hatched. So on top of the fact you have 15 to 24% chance of 60 mile per hour winds and higher, that hatch zone basically tells you that there's also an increased chance to see winds that are 75 miles per hour and higher, and that is due to the segment coming in from Minnesota later this evening, and that will be moving into the UP overnight tonight, again after really 1 a.m. Hail risk kind of falls into the same guidelines here, same sort of thing. Large hail possible with how much instability we're getting to move into the region, and that again will be for the UP and into tomorrow for northern lower Michigan. Tornado risk, basically the same as the SPC. You have a 3 to 5% chance of a tornado, or a storm producing a tornado, I should say, along those squall lines that are supposed to move through tomorrow, as well as if storms can develop in the afternoon tomorrow. Again, we're dealing with a slight capping inversion. We'll go into that here in just a second when I go to the models. That's the next thing up. That capping inversion will keep isolated cells from forming behind this initial line of storms. So ultimately, a damaging wind and large hail risk for tomorrow. So move into the model runs now. We'll go ahead and show you what exactly is going on. So starting with tonight, so this is going to be at midnight. This is projected radar at midnight tonight. So you can see nothing going on really prior to midnight. So really Friday's kind of stress-free here. Then we move into about 3 a.m. there. That's when it starts to move into the UP, as well as extreme western Michigan downstate here. Again, that's why the marginal risk is in effect, as well as these storms down here in the lower peninsula could go marginal for severe. As you can see here, a lot of the reds and pinks across the UP, that's the main focal point there for extreme damaging winds, large hail, and perhaps a couple of embedded tornadoes as well there across the state. It kind of makes this little backwards L shape as it moves through the morning hours. So this is about 8 to 9 a.m. You can see in the east side of the state over there by around 8 or 9. And into the UP by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Pushes through Sault Ste. Marie close to noon. A couple cells fire up behind it. We'll have to watch those as well. And then again, it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. This is when the atmosphere really starts to destabilize. And you can see not on radar right now, there's really not a whole lot going on except for a couple blips. And again, that's really all there is there. But if we switch it over here to, let's go over to the supercell composite, for example. Again, with that heat building in tomorrow, starting tomorrow, you can see that's going to really fuel the atmosphere. So again, this is 2 o'clock tomorrow, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. You see that supercell composite on your screen is a 50. You can see why here. So if we open a hodograph, again, we see these large looping hodographs here. That's a lot of spin in the atmosphere. You have a lot of surface-based CAPE down here in the bottom. Again, we look for values that are at 1,000 or higher. That's 3,200. Again, lifted into sea is, I'm not sure how accurate that is, given that we don't really have upper level support going on in the atmosphere, so we need like a jet stream that's going to be passing through, and that's going to be a little displaced off to our north. The only way we'd be able to get isolated discrete cells in the afternoon tomorrow is if we can get any sort of outflow boundary from the morning storms to kind of back build, or any sort of lake breezes, which we do get a lot in the summer, and that is why forecasting in Michigan is honestly a headache and a half. Everyone here that's grown up in Michigan their entire life here at MSC has kind of figured that out by now, but again, the threat is there tomorrow for a considerable all hazards risk really after 3 o'clock. Anywhere where you see this big purple blob across northern Michigan. Again, the supercell composite is 50 to 60, which is pretty maxed out there. But again, as long as there is a capping inversion in place, which again is like a lid on the atmosphere, prevents any updrafts from going up, and you can see that visibly here on the skew T chart. So you can see you really want, for severe weather to happen, that red line to stay left of the white dashed line. That's your surface parcel. And because that red line dips across the dashed line there, that is indicative of a cap. And you can see that's also going to be very dry up there as well, as the dew point line and the temperature line are not close to each other. They're very far apart, and that results in humidity values that do not produce clouds. And again, it's a very conditional threat. So again, all hazards possible, but you need this dry air to mix out to become moist air for any storms to develop in the first place. So it's really one of those situations where you see boom or bust, kind of what we've used in terminologies, or what we've used terminology-wise earlier this year in some of our other storms. Very boom or bust out there. So you can see as we continue into the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock time frame, those ingredients remain, given how hot it'll be out there tomorrow night. And then those will start to die out overnight as we get into the cooler period overnight, which will be in the low 70s for lows, which will kind of be interesting considering how cold it was here in May. It's going to feel a lot nicer. So that is your rundown from the HRRR run. If you switch over to the NAM 3K, projected radar-wise, again, kind of that same segment there. Actually, 18Z is probably out by now. Let's see if there's an update on that. There is. So there's your squall line. That has it moving a little bit further south. The NAM this year has been kind of hit or miss as well. And then it really shows here in the afternoon for anyone wondering that capping inversion really takes over. Hard to produce storms when you have that capping inversion, so it pretty much just fizzles out completely by the time you get to around that noon time frame. So two totally different models showing two different results there. It's trying to pop up convection in the eastern UP, so we'll have to watch that as we get into tomorrow evening as well. But again, main storyline here for precipitation is going to be overnight tonight, the squall line moving through the UP. That again is going to be from about 2 to 3 a.m. onward to about sunrise, so it's about 8 or 9 a.m. there, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon. A couple cells popping up in the eastern UP around noon there, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. That's the time that we have to start looking for isolated cells across northern lower Michigan, and then it kind of fizzles out there. So again, there's your slight risk from the SBC. Again, 2% chance for tornado, 50% chance for wind and hail. Again, that's from the SBC. Our odds are a little bit different. Heat-wise, we'll go into the heat real quick one last time here. Heat for tomorrow, the reason why we have so much instability is heat index values for Saturday are likely to get near 100 degrees for places downstate in the Grand Rapids area, Tri-Cities, over even towards Detroit. And this is day one of our heat. Heat advisories have just gone into effect here at 4 o'clock. We'll have a map out showing all of those heat advisories later this evening. So again, if you're not getting severe tomorrow, you do want to be protecting yourself from this dangerous heat. Again, you do not want to spend more than 30 minutes outside in the sunlight, especially if you're doing extraneous activities. If you're doing any of those activities, you do want to stay hydrated so you can survive longer outside without getting any heat-related illnesses. And of course, if you're going to the beach, make sure you apply sunscreen. There will be some sunshine out there tomorrow. It won't be all doom and gloom for most of the day. But again, from northern Michigan and the UP, it's going to pretty much be a stormy day all day. Southern Michigan, you'll luck out. Should be pretty stress-free tomorrow. This will be a nice welcome break. But again, be watching for northern Michigan as that is part of Michigan. So there's all of your heat advisories there on the screen, pretty much the entire lower peninsula. Again, we'll have a map out here on our page after the briefing is over. I believe that covers everything. Again, there's all your SBC maps there. See a couple members coming in here. We see Evan back for month number 12 saying officially been here for a year on YouTube. Thank you, Evan, as always, for your continuous support. And we got Roger joining the team as an EF0 member here on YouTube. Thank you, Roger. Drew, you got anything to add that I might be forgetting? I'm sure there's probably a lot.
No, I think you kind of summarized everything perfectly in terms of how these next few days could play out here, as well as the heat as well. So there's obviously a lot here at MSC that we're tracking, storms and heat. And that heat will really kind of take over, kind of like you were mentioning, Joel, starting on Saturday, kind of going into the weekend, into early next week.
I see a comment in here in chat about heat concerns for the Upper Peninsula. There are heat concerns for the Upper Peninsula. You can see tomorrow that is around 5 o'clock. So primarily along the state line. So heat indices tomorrow are going to be around 90 to 95. If you're in the eastern UP, it'll be nice and cool. The heat really starts to pick up on Sunday, though. That's the day we're going to be starting to look for. As you can see, there's your heat indexes for Sunday. Well close to 105 for a lot of locations across southern Michigan. So right now, heat advisories in effect, very close to excessive heat warnings. Or I believe they renamed them, Drew. I think it's now called an extreme heat warning. I keep saying excessive, but I think it's called heat or extreme.
So yeah, for those that are wondering, the storms that will be kind of moving in will be kind of moving in as early as 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. So kind of like what Joel mentioned, the majority of Friday will be kind of clear and really just a nice day to take advantage of the weather. You could have a few storms. You know, Joel kind of showed radar right at the beginning where we could have a few isolated thunderstorms on the east side of the state. But besides that, and basically enjoy this last nice day before the heat really takes over.
Yeah, again, tomorrow is going to be really hot out there as soon as those storms pass through for the afternoon. And again, that insane, that's a good word to use there, insane instability, again, with Cape values close to 4,000 joules of Cape. Something to watch for blossoming storms in the afternoon, primarily north of US 10. Again, if we get into those isolated discrete cells, it would produce an all-hazard risk. Not saying that it's going to happen. You need storm development in the first place. But if storms develop, that could produce, again, hail, winds, perhaps an isolated tornado or two. Again, there's a low threat out there, but we are watching it. Forecasting
And
in Michigan is a lot of fun.
oh yeah. uh, I'd like to mention too, the two main things here that we're kind of watching in terms of storm potential are, first of all, how far north or south will these complexes be? As Joel was showing the models, we had one model run that showed these complexes more to hit more the UP and northern lower, and then the NAM being a little bit further south. So the National Weather Service kind of the National Weather Service has kind of highlighted that too, where sometimes these complexes like to trend a little bit further south sometimes and hug along that more favorable instability gradient. So we'll be watching that here closely at MSC, but the better confidence will be more in the UP and northern lower Michigan for these complexes. And just like what Joel was mentioning too, for the storm chances going into Saturday afternoon, a very highly conditional setup. There is that 2% TOR risk for maybe an isolated storm to develop, but once again, it's not looking very likely right now because we do have a little bit of the capping inversion. And really the only way we could get storm development is if maybe an outflow boundary or a lake breeze could sneak in. But once again, it's not really common to see that. It's pretty rare to see that actually. So our overall confidence in that happening is pretty low. So our main focus is really going to be those storm complexes during the morning.
Jump over into the comments here. So there is, I see one round of storms is the comment here. So technically, you could consider this one round of storms because it's all attached. However, some places will get probably hit multiple times here. You can see this is going to be 5Z, so that's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Eastern. You can see line number 1 starts to hit the UP 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, also extending down into the lower peninsula, and that's why our thunderstorm risk doesn't really include much of southwest Michigan. It starts to pop up over Grand Rapids. And you can see up there in the upper peninsula, again, you have another line moving through close to 6, 7 o'clock, and 8 a.m. in the morning. And then 9 a.m., kind of behind that front line there, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So some places will get hit twice, but generally speaking, this is still technically one line of storms. The only possible way you can get another line of storms would be if you have any discrete cells pop up across northern Michigan tomorrow. I'm so used to saying southern because that's the place that's been hit so much this year. But if you zoom in here, you can see a couple of blips popping up. We will have to watch those blips, as they're called, primarily north of Mount Pleasant, north of Clare, kind of along the Grayling over towards Mayo, Alpena, Harrisville area. So again, if any of those blips can break through that capping inversion, again, that capping inversion is like a lid in the atmosphere that prevents increased storm development, then we would see potential for supercells develop, cloud tops up to like 50,000 feet, and potential for large hail, damaging winds, perhaps a tornado or two. So again, there's only one round, question mark for round 2. Again, round 2 would only be up here, pretty much north of US 10.
The main thing too about round 1 is the round 1's mainly going to be a wind and hail threat. Maybe a low chance for a tornado, but a lot of these storms are going to be more elevated, really won't be interacting at the surface. So but just like we kind of mentioned, wind and hail can be just as dangerous as a tornado. We do have that significant tag in western parts of the UP. So, and that's another danger too with these storms happening overnight, is a lot of people may be sleeping. So make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. We know the Upper Peninsula has a lot of trees throughout that area, as well as northern lower Michigan too. So just have multiple ways to receive warnings. Our mods are sending in the chats probably right now in terms of what could be used, whether it's a weather radio or via your phone, in terms of getting weather alerts.
Yeah, overnight tonight, for those who are wondering, it is definitely, like Drew said, it's a wind and hail threat. Here's your individual maps again. So this is the general consensus here. So this brings all 3 hazards into one location. So if only one of the hazards in the level 3 zone is a level 3, it'll still make it automatically level 3 despite the other hazards. So you can see here that the UP is in level 3 right now. If you flip it through the individual hazards, there's a level 3 on wind and hail for the UP, but not for tornadoes. So despite the fact tornadoes is not a level 3 risk, the highest level number always is going to be displayed depending on what hazards here on the right side. So level 3 risk out of 6 on the on the MSC scale. On SPC it's a little bit different. This is our own in-house forecast. Level 3 risk, which indicates 15 to 24% chance the storm produces damaging winds. I would honestly not be shocked if it's a little bit higher than that, especially for the UP tonight. But again, we added that 3 H. Again, the hatch risk is for 75 mile per hour winds of 60 for the western UP. As mentioned, wind and hail are the main threats overnight. And again, we have a low threat for a tornado. There's a lot of spin out there, Drew. If you take a look at, where was it at here? This map here. So our hodograph is very long and loopy. When you see the big curl around like that, that is a decent amount of spin. But as you mentioned, they are surface, or not surface based. You need that red line to go continuously to the right, and it cuts back to the left there, signifying that it's very stable in the lowest level of the atmosphere. So it's not going to be able to tap into that low level spin, and that is a good sign for the lack of tornadoes overnight tonight. Again, it'll be damaging winds and large hail. Do not take that for granted, though, of course, because damaging winds can bring down just as many trees as a tornado does.
Indeed. But this is kind of the nature of forecasting very high instability valued regions when it comes to summer forecasting. Is you'll have sometimes really extreme amounts of instability or heat that might be in place, but you might still have those one or two factors still missing. And tonight is really going to be reliant on how today plays out. For those that aren't aware, there is an enhanced risk out in North Dakota today and parts of Minnesota for an all hazard threat. And basically how those storms develop and form will be basically how they will transgress over to our state. So we'll be kind of keeping an eye on that as they're moving over here. So there could be a small chance still that what the miles are showing now could still shift a little bit, because once again, these storms that are hitting us during the the storms that are hitting the Upper Peninsula and lower Michigan are the same storms that already hit Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota.
The timing on these storms, once again, is on the right side of your screen there. Anytime between 1 a.m. and 9 p.m. tomorrow. That is not an exaggeration. Again, it can happen anytime between those time frames. Starting with 1 a.m. tonight being in the far western UP, of course, as this is a very broad area. But far western UP, 1 a.m., working across the UP by around 8 a.m. You also have cells starting to pop up in this level 1 zone here in the center of your screen as early as 6. And then pretty much by 8 a.m. it's going to be all the way moving into the level 2. Level 3 pretty much beyond 8 a.m. for the lower peninsula there. And then as far as eastern upper peninsula goes, same thing there. And then this morning line should be done by around 2 or 3 p.m. However, that 3 to 9 time frame, as we mentioned, in that level 3 zone, pretty much in the lower peninsula and far eastern UP, is what we'll have to be watching for additional cell development if we can break through that cap. So again, very broad range of times here, but unfortunately there's no better way to break it down than just to put that entire time frame to be on alert for severe weather if you are in any of these zones tomorrow. So if you are in Muskegon, Grand Rapids, Lansing, and points south, severe is not really likely for you guys tomorrow. You can see there on the map, level 1 is the lowest level of severe. If you are in the T zone, you could still see thunderstorms, but they're not likely to be as severe. If you line it up with our individual hazards, it's a less than 1% chance that you see damaging wind and hail. So again, it would defy the odds essentially if you did get a severe report in the T zone tomorrow. You said you were going to say something there, Drew?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of the heat that kind of comes afterwards, these heat indices and the temperature, the dew points that are all going to be in place are no joke. It's the reason why there's many heat alerts that are out that are issued from the National Weather Service. If you have any pets, make sure they're well hydrated. Don't leave them outdoors too long. If you're going to be driving about, do not leave your pets or anyone left in the car if you're doing grocery shopping. There's always so many tragic stories throughout the United States of that happening, and unfortunately it causes a loss of life when they're left in there. The car can rapidly heat up, especially if you have the windows closed. So just please be mindful about your surroundings while you're all doing this, and yeah, just be smart basically is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, it seems like common sense is just getting thrown out the window a lot more. We say these all the time. A lot of people do know about, heat safety and whatnot. But again, in a day and age where technology is readily there, people seem to not take advantage of it, and they don't heed the warnings, and then they find out the hard way. So Again, that's why we're here. We're trying to spread the word about the heat this weekend because, again, it can't take you by surprise. Even the healthiest individuals are susceptible to heat.
For anyone that's obviously working outdoors, make sure you're always staying well hydrated, staying in the shade. You could even be in the shade, but just with how humid it's going to feel, we'll have dew points in the 70s, which that's your like tropical kind of like Florida kind of air that you're kind of getting at that point. And you could still be in the shade, but still be sweating due to heat exhaustion and stuff. So just basically be mindful of your body and make sure you don't overwork it.
So once again, we'll go through timing here on the map. Again, this is a county-based map, so as long as you know where your county is on here, you're doing yourself a good service to yourself. This is why I tell you to memorize where you're at on a map all the time. So when we're going through this hour by hour, you can kind of pinpoint kind of exactly where you're at here. So Grand Rapids, Kent County's right there in the middle of your screen there, that big rectangle. You have Detroit down there, Wayne County, in this kind of anvil-shaped county, and then Lansing's right there in the middle. You also have Gaylord up here, right about where my mouse is at. So kind of reference points there, but again, in the future, you'll want to know where you're at on a map. So when we're going through this hour by hour, you're doing yourself a great service here. So everyone pay attention. This is the projected timing off the HRRR run one more time here. We'll go hour by hour very, very slowly so you guys can kind of understand what's going on here. So we're going to start with midnight tonight. This is the radar at midnight tonight projected. Again, this could shift a little bit. It's not an exact science here. It's pretty close to, but it's not exact. So this is what radar is projected to look like at around midnight. Then we move on to 1 a.m. Still really not a whole lot going on in Michigan, but 1 a.m. is kind of that earliest time frame just in case. Moving to 2 a.m., that's when these storms do approach the western UP border. 3 o'clock, some cells starting to pop up in the lower peninsula there around West Michigan. Strong to severe thunderstorms moving into the upper peninsula and Gojibit County there in Ontonagon County. 4 a.m., that's when really things start to get underway for the UP and West Michigan. Marginal risk in the western Michigan there around 4 a.m. 5 a.m. kind of continues into central Michigan, starts to extend down towards Ann Arbor there, Lansing. In the UP, continuous severe is ongoing. You have a second line here moving through. This is now 6 a.m. on your screen. Widespread wind damage possible there ongoing, as well as some large hail in the UP. 7 o'clock, that line just continues to uptick in intensity. Cells continue to move east across the lower peninsula as well at the same time. 8 a.m., same story there. 9 a.m., cells starting to move out of Michigan in the lower peninsula, although impacting the thumb area here at 9. 10 o'clock, the Boeing segment is pretty much into the Sault Ste. Marie, Rudyard region up there in the UP and northeast lower Michigan. So that is 10 a.m. and Detroit down there in Macomb County. 11 and noon. So by noon, this whole complex should be out of the state in the lower peninsula. Could be lingering around 1 a.m. as well. Leftover effects could be possible there around 1 o'clock in the UP, eastern UP as well. 2 o'clock, that's when things start to dwindle down as the capping inversion, mind you, is in place. It starts to take over as the instability ramps up and that dry air kind of focuses in the mid-levels. 3 o'clock, you can see nothing on your radar. Now, however, just because at 3 o'clock there's nothing on radar doesn't mean the atmosphere is completely good. As we get to 3 o'clock here, that instability really starts to ramp up. There's nothing on radar really after 3 o'clock here projected on the model runs, but again, the models kind of have a tough time with lake breezes, outflow boundaries all the time. So you can see there's a couple blips here popping up across northern and central Michigan. Those blips would be something to watch tomorrow if any boundaries can induce lift. If we induce lift, there's enough instability out there tomorrow, enough shear out there tomorrow. So pretty much shear instability and moisture. So there's SLIM. So shear, lift, instability, moisture. We have S, I, and M, but we don't have the L, so lift. If we get a boundary, that is your source of lift. That would complete all 4 ingredients for severe weather in the afternoon tomorrow. Again, north of Mount Pleasant, US 10. That could produce an all hazards threat, primarily around the Grayling, Gaylord region over towards Alpena and Harrisville. And again, that would primarily be from 4 p.m. really on through about 9 p.m. in the evening. So that's what we're looking at for. There's your full hour by hour time frame there. Again, if you just missed it, you can go back and rewind it once we're done here at the end of the stream. And again, knowing where you're at on a blank map like this does yourself a great service. So hopefully you understand where you're at or where you're going to be tomorrow if you do have plans elsewhere in the state. So again, primary focus tomorrow for severe weather is going to be north of really 96 and 69. Could extend down towards Detroit, but the main focus there is in that level 3 yellow zone you see on your screen for damaging winds and hail, an isolated chance for a tornado or two as well. That is your recap. Yeah, if you're going to bed tonight, and if you're in the UP, especially in the UP, I cannot stress this enough. If you know anybody in the UP tonight that is planning on going to bed thinking there's not going to be severe weather, please share the word. This is looking to be quite the squall line moving through the UP, and again, with a lot of trees up there, widespread tree damage is possible.
Yeah, we aren't. We aren't the lower Michigan storm chasers. We are the Michigan storm chasers. So we cover live feed coverage, severe weather coverage for the UP. Although we don't do it near as often as for lower Michigan, we still do it nevertheless because you are all part of Michigan.
So tornadoes are not really the main focus of the system unless we get that window of opportunity between 3 and 9 p.m. tomorrow afternoon for northern lower. So if you know you're anywhere northern lower Michigan up here in this level 3 zone, perhaps even eastern UP, you are in the threat for potential for an all hazards risk. But again, overnight tonight, it's just going to be hail and wind. Thank you, Paramount.
Those that are...
Sorry, there's a super chat real quick. Thank you, Paramount, for the $2 super chat. Thank you for your support of the channel. Go ahead, Drew.
For those that are wondering, we may or may not have 1 or 2 chasers that might head up there. We don't really have a lot of chasers up there just because the majority of our chasers live more in lower Michigan, but we may have 1 or 2 that might venture up there if any storms do develop. So we'll obviously know more once our storms are going on, but we'll have you covered here at MSC.
The UP does not belong to Wisconsin. That's funny. And again, it's also peak camping season, Drew, as well. A lot of campers up there, a lot of tourists. Mackinac Island's busy this time of the year. Kitchitikipi, another tourist attraction. Pictured Rocks, a lot of people camping up there this year. Even Lake of the Cloud. I know the Porcupine Mountains are a huge hotspot for tourists this time of the year. And again, that's about where the most intense winds are going to be blowing through tonight. So if you know anyone camping up here, and I know from experience, Ontonagon County has little to no service anywhere in the Porcupine Mountains unless you get up like on top of one of the mountains. So if you have a way to contact anyone out there in the western UP tonight, please let them know. Damaging winds, large hail on the way. Yeah, no better way to say it. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly way to put it. Yeah, always have multiple ways to receive warnings when it comes to severe weather. That's always something to be mindful about. If you're ever heading to an area that might have bad service, having that extra, whether it's having a weather radio or another means of receiving warnings, that's always good to prepare because you don't want to go camping and then not be aware because, there's a lot of things like trees and power lines and all kinds of stuff, mainly in the Upper Peninsula, that can fall down or get tipped over. We saw it with the ice storm that happened in northern lower Michigan earlier this year, where we had all kinds of tree damage that all happened there, and that's definitely possible. Not maybe as widespread, but more in localized spots in the Upper Peninsula potentially for tonight.
On Mackinac Island right now should be interesting tomorrow. Absolutely, yeah. On your screen is the severe risk for overnight tonight through tomorrow. So if you know where you're at on this map, check it. Again, level 1 risk in blue, level 2 risk in green, level 3 risk in yellow. The higher the number, the greater the risk. It just means higher probabilities of something happen. Now, a level 3 risk does not guarantee you're going to see severe weather. As you can see there at the top of your screen, the odds in the level 3 zone are 15 to 24% chance that a storm produces a damaging wind gust. So that's still a 75 to 85% chance that that storm does not. And if you're having trouble seeing these graphics, feel free to head over to our Facebook page. They are there as well. Sometimes they don't show up as well. Also, make sure you're watching the stream in HD. Again, if you're watching on your TV, sometimes the YouTube app as well, it automatically defaults it to 360p, which is really weird. So it puts it in like really low quality. So make sure your gear is all the way up to 1080p. Because we are streaming in 1080p 60 frames per second.
For those that are wondering, obviously with all this heat in place, a lot of you guys that might be considering to go out to the beach. Joel, I do believe you do have a beach forecast that's on Facebook, correct?
That is for today. I'll have another one out regarding tomorrow, probably later this evening. For those who missed it, the instability that we're looking at for tomorrow, we'll actually go over to the SIG Tor perimeter just to show you guys how much shear we have available tomorrow if something were to, blossom up. These are probably some of the highest values we've seen this year in terms of the STP. However, again, with that strong capping inversion in place, that's pretty much going to prevent any storms from even firing tomorrow. You also need some upper level support. We also don't really have that tomorrow. So again, that lifting mechanism is just not there. And that is a good thing. We want to keep it that way. However, again, in Michigan, we have something called these lake breezes and outflow boundaries. And models don't do a good job of really picking those up often. And so we really have to kind of keep an eye on this area of northern Michigan, right where these purples are. Again, that's going to be really from, let's see, kind of estimating here. That's going to be probably Grayling, Gaylord, over towards Mayo, Atlanta, Johannesburg, up towards Pellston. There in northern lower, and you can see that does shift as you get into the later evening hours over towards the east coast of Michigan, and also maximizes out there too. Again, large looping hodographs there. We look for these massive C's on the right side for a lot of shear, and we see that. However, if you look on the left side here, that is a cap. So where the green line and the red line spread really far apart, that is very dry air. Again, if the red and the green are close together, that's very humid air. And you also, again, need that red line to be left of this dashed white line for there not to be a cap as well. So you need a combination of the red and the green line closer together, as well as that red line being left of the dashed line. Those two things for severe weather, and again, it's pretty much a swing and a miss on both of those. So again, not expected to really have any severe storms tomorrow. However, if that cap can break off any boundary, then it would be all hands on deck, I guess you could say. Not going to sugarcoat it again as I mean, Drew, you could probably agree with me here. It's definitely a primed atmosphere, but we are missing that lift.
Yeah, it's easily a very primed atmosphere in terms of just, a atmosphere, in terms of how an atmosphere can go for severe weather. It's probably one of the most favorable severe weather environments I've seen for a while, but once again, you can have a primed atmosphere, but that doesn't matter if you don't have that proper triggering. And we're kind of struggling to see that. So that's why there's just very low confidence in that. And that's why the SPC only has a 2% risk and not like some crazy 15% TOR risk or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can have all ingredients of slim, shear lift, instability, moisture, but if you have that capping inversion in place, it's not going to matter. Say it all the time. But for those who are new here, slim can think of it. I know the mods use Slim Shady as kind of a way to remember it. Why is the Slim being shady? When the Slim is shady, that means all of the ingredients of Slim are in place. So tomorrow we kind of have Sim, like a SIM card. Sheer instability and moisture, but lift, not so much. But I believe that's it. Kind of a smaller crowd here today. It's a mid-afternoon briefing, so it's a pretty small crowd. Again, everyone's still at work. So for those who are tuning in after work, probably watching this back live later, again, hopefully you got enough information out of it today. Again, severe weather risk for tonight starts around and after 1 and 2 for the Western UP, moves into the Central UP, and starts to formulate in the Lower Peninsula as early as 6 to 8 a.m. Really after 8 a.m. anywhere in the yellow in the Eastern UP as well as Northern Lower is where the severe weather is expected there. After 3 p.m. tomorrow is when we could see some isolated severe storms pop up if the cap can be eroded. If not, it should be a relatively clear afternoon beyond 3 o'clock tomorrow. So it could be a nice, hot, sunny day for most out there with that capping inversion staying in place. The real ones stream while still at work. Absolutely. There's always the late night crew, and then if we do a briefing in the afternoon, there's the afternoon crew. Which I feel like there's a smaller crew during the afternoon time. So kind of a more rare event here. Yes, the southern part finally gets a break. So Kalamazoo, Jackson, really that 94 corridor is going to be pretty much stress-free tomorrow. Fingers crossed, of course. We don't need any more southern shifts. But we'll go ahead and read through our advertisers here now that we're wrapping up our stream. So bear with us here. We have about 12.5 different advertisers here that help give back to you guys. Again, they donate to the cause here at MSC, and again, we're allowed to do this stuff because of our advertisers. So please give them our business. They are our trusted partners, and let them know MSC sent you. Starting off with Stormguard Roofing and Construction, our sponsor since day one here at MSC, our Northern Metro Detroit sponsor there. You have Lifestyle Exteriors, based out of Lansing to Traverse City. Katz Roofing and Siding, from Lansing, Potterville, down to Battle Creek. Pro Powder, for all of your powder coating needs, based out of South Haven. Mike Hayes Roofing and Siding, based out of the Thumb, Sand Lake, St. Clair counties. K Tree Specialists, all across Southeast Michigan. And for those all across West Michigan, you got Kuiper Tree Care there for you. Down in Kalamazoo County, Gull Lake Tree Pro for all your tree needs there. Need a barn dominium done, outdoor building needs, FBI buildings all across the Lower Peninsula. On Top Roofing, based out of Livingston County. Schneider Commercial Building Solutions for all of your commercial building needs, based out of Lansing. Also based out of Lansing, Shield Public Adjusters for all of your insurance claims and adjustment needs there, based out of Lansing as mentioned. All of your flooring needs, Floor Coverings International of Michiana. Roofing exteriors there, Top Gun Roofing and Exteriors in West Michigan, number on your screen there. If you would like some security cameras, Guardian is the move. They are the provider of all of our Skynet cams across the state that you see here at MSC. A-Class Construction and Restoration for all of your restoration and construction needs there in Mason County. And our newest sponsor, Rainbow Restoration, based out of Kent County as well. So if you need any restoration needs in West Michigan, there you go, Rainbow Restoration. Those are all of our sponsors for today. Our premier sponsor of the day, by the way, was Top Gun Roofing and Exteriors. So again, if you missed any of those numbers, feel free to pause the stream, go back, take a screenshot of them, and again, let them know MSC sent you. Let me go ahead and scroll through the comments here one last time. Give rounds of applause for our sponsors there for sure. Air show is going to be kind of a hit or miss for tomorrow. Again, really going to be clear after that 3 o'clock time frame. So I don't expect anything really honestly severe beyond noon tomorrow for Lower Michigan. So you guys should be good down there. So if you missed anything in this briefing, feel free to go back and watch the stream from the beginning. Easy way to do that is by subscribing on our YouTube channel. All of our archived content is always going to be found there. On Facebook, it eventually deletes someday. Usually, I think it's after like 30 days. So always want to be subscribed to YouTube. If you haven't yet, follow us on YouTube. Our account name is MI Storm Chasers. Or if you just type in Michigan Storm Chasers, we have almost 56,000 subscribers here. So closing in on that. Again, if we get to 60,000, that's when I start to dance again. So inside joke for those who are new here. Every 5K, I usually do a little bit of a dance. So feel free to subscribe if that is not encouragement to you, or if it is encouragement. Otherwise, we're also always live on Facebook, Twitch, and X as well. And as always, we'll be live covering any of these severe storms overnight tonight from beginning to end. We'll probably be starting live coverage around 2 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Central for those living in Western UP. For tonight's severe weather event, if we see that damaging winds are moving towards the UP. If it for whatever reason decides to completely crap out, for lack of better words there, then we won't need to go live. But again, chances are we'll probably see at least some severe thunderstorm warnings across the Western UP tonight. So again, if you miss it or if you need some live coverage, we're here for you. We'll be live starting later tonight. So anything else, Drew?
No, not really. You kind of summed it up, basically. If there's anything, we'll probably go live. The best chances for that would be Western UP, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I do still owe a dance, yes. I have not danced for 55K either, so I will owe you guys a dance. We won't do it in this stream, but we'll do it probably next severe weather event, probably tonight. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. If you get to 60K, then you'll see another dance very close to the 55K one. So thank you very much for tuning in today. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your evening. Have a great and safe day tomorrow. Stay cool out there. Drink lots of water. 3 liters of water, no less. Especially if you're out there in the heat doing some extraneous activities. You want to probably be closer to 4 liters. So stay cool out there. Stay hydrated. Check on your loved ones, your pets. And thank you, mods, as well, for tuning in today and helping out with the stream covers behind the scenes. You are also very appreciated here at MSC. So round of applause to you guys. We'll see everyone here next time at MSC for another live stream, severe weather coverage, or briefing. So take care, everyone. We'll see you soon.
See you, everybody.